Good afternoon, Niner faithful. Welcome to the second ever episode of the Sneakerhead call-in show, where you do have to be a member in order to call in, but you can certainly be a part of the chatter by being there in the chat. I know right now I am competing against the San Francisco 49ers, just finishing their presser. I did not realize that was the case when I set up this time. You know, they keep moving that thing around, and so it's difficult to know when they are going live and when they are allowing for questions. Certainly, there are a lot of things 49er faithful are attempting to discern about this upcoming game. Nothing more important than the question of who will start at quarterback. I have to recognize that there is, in fact, a new member of the Sneakerhead Army that is already, I see in the chat there, we got 3 folks waiting to get into the call-in, and one of them that will be coming up is that Niner guy. Want to give a special shout out to our most recent Sneakerhead, and very excited to get to everybody. So, if you want to know how to call in, you do have to be a member of the channel for the fact that it's a video call-in show. Now, if you don't want to be on video, that's fine. You can go just audio, no problem with that. And just want to let you know where to find the link to come in. If you are a member of the channel, I put it in the chat there that there is a link to the community tab. The community tab on my YouTube page, that's where the StreamYard link is to get in, to call in. I'm going to put the link to my community tab once again. When you see that link there from Rob Schuh down in the comments, that will take you to the community tab, and there you will find that link that will get you into the background here before we bring you into the show. With no further ado, let's turn this thing over to get it to some folks that want to be on the program. And let's start with our very first caller last time, Sean 951 Niners. Anybody who saw that show knows how well that first call went. So we're going to bring it in now. Sean, how you doing, my friend? It's good to see you.
Rob, I'm doing good. How does my voice sound?
It sounds good. Audio sounds good on my end. If anybody in the comments feels any different, because I know it sounds one way in my ear, but sometimes it's a little different for the listeners, hit it in the comments. I'll keep my eye out for it, but it sounds perfect on my end.
I was only saying because I'm getting back my voice. I was camping a couple days in the mountains, and I don't know if I ended up getting sick or whatever, but the voice is fading. So I've got the magic potion right here, but
there you go.
If it does sound a little off, you let me know.
Is that a warm beverage that you have there, or are you going cold beverage to soothe the throat?
It's actually neither. It's room temp water.
That's smart. That's actually people who work on their voices, radio people, people on TV. That's what they drink is room temperature water, so that it doesn't affect the vocal cords. That's typically what I'm going for. Although in Portland right now, room temperature coming out of the pipes is freaking cold. We are in the midst of that wintry mix BS that you get on the iPhone app, where it's sleet, it's rain, it's snow. It can't make up its mind.
Well, hey, I was just up at Lake Arrowhead, and when I left Tuesday, it was snowing. You had to have 4-wheel drive or chains if you had 2-wheel drive.
Oof.
And it was ripping. I had to get down that 3:30, so that was an interesting hour and a half come home there. But I'll tell you what, it's worse for everybody today. They're getting like 20, 30 inches up there, so I'm glad I got out when I could. I wasn't trying to be snowed in up there.
Wow. Silent Seth says it's a blizzard out here. It's very similar in people trying to get out to Lake Tahoe from Northern California. My brother and his family were looking to get out to Tahoe, I think Monday, and they shut down everything. Yeah. People going out there. He and his family did make it out there. Thankfully, they're enjoying all of that fresh powder. But I know Matt, one of the guys on the channel that got snowed in, has no power. I wish him the best. I've communicated with him on Twitter, and I think everything is good on his end because I have seen the occasional post come up. But yeah, man, there's some crazy, crazy storms happening out there. I was flying home from Northern California. Every flight in and out of Seattle got canceled on Sunday. Thankfully, I was flying direct from Santa Rosa to Portland, or I would have gotten shut down too.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's still raining right now, actually. Yeah. So we're still raining. I'm here, as you recall, about 30 miles east of SoFi. So down here in Eastvale,
Very
Corona area.
nice.
But
That rain isn't hitting that turf at SoFi with that little roof they got on there.
no, definitely not. I know that's what's interesting too, to transition into the Niners. Um, I think we're going to probably be playing back-to-back games at that stadium. Just looking at some of the scenarios, obviously we have to take care of business Sunday, but it looks pretty likely, just given the games the way they have to play out, that would happen, and that would be, I don't know. Do you think that would be positive, or would that be a negative to have to go in there twice, regardless who's at QB?
I think that it's both in my book. It's a positive in that it's an opponent that you know very well. And both the Rams and the Cardinals, I feel like, are winnable opponents for the 49ers. They match up against both. Certainly they lost twice to Arizona, and I'm not taking that away from the Cardinals. I do think they are a different team without DeAndre Hopkins. I think that they have been flailing as of lately, and therefore their confidence may be a bit shaken going into the postseason. You want to be riding that high. You want to be that team that's unflappable at that point, and that's not who I think of with the Cardinals. But to your point of specifically playing the same team 2 weeks in a row, the downside to that is it's hard enough to beat the same team twice in 1 year, let alone a third time, let alone on a back-to-back. So I do think that that's something the 49ers should be wary of. But to your point, it's the next game that's the most important. It is one and done at this point. If the Niners lost to the Texans this weekend, our playoff hopes would be all but dashed. Once we take care of business there, we'll find out what happens with the Saints and the Panthers. Then I feel like we can move on to LA, and we'll also have a better idea of, to your point, how that playoff scenario starts bouncing around with teams winning and losing and being so close at the top of the NFC.
Sure. No, without a doubt. So to go to this weekend, you know what I thought was interesting yesterday? The Wednesday presser is normally your starting quarterback.
Right.
And yet before yesterday, it was Lance because of Jimmy's finger. But yet, like Grant, you remember him complaining a couple weeks ago, I think actually when he had you on, we keep asking for Lance. They won't let us talk to Lance. What is going on, Bob? So I think it's interesting that they still, because if Lance was the starter, he would have to, by league rules, come out and speak. By them saying, nope, Jimmy could play this week, I wonder if that's Shanahan continuing the perfect, you don't get to talk to Lance. You can talk to him post-game if he was the starter, but we don't have to bring him out here. Or if there's actually any validity to Garoppolo being able to play, because if you remember the last time with his ankle, he did the same tactics before the Seattle week. I mean, not Seattle, Arizona week. Still a chance. I could play. Definitely feeling good, and then bam, it's Lance.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if you read into that like I'm reading into that, or if that's just, no, Garoppolo does actually have a chance, or if he's just doing his competitive advantage.
I think to me personally, and I heard Matt Mayoko as I was listening to his podcast going out for a run today, I hear it from him, and then I know I'm being reasonable. If I agree with Matt Mayoko, one of the more conservative beat reporters out there, then I know I'm within the reasonable perspective. And I do believe that it is smoke and mirrors at this point, that you're attempting to maintain that competitive advantage. And Shanahan's a very transparent guy in that regard. He will tell you flat out that, no, I'm not going to give you any information on injury beyond what I have to, because I feel it does give me a competitive advantage, and I'll take every advantage I can get. So I think he does want the Texans to have to prepare for both quarterbacks. The interesting part for me in believing that this week is decided is wondering what it would take to eliminate the decision for next week, assuming Jimmy does continue to heal and that there is less to this injury than the reports on the national level would have us believe. Because if you believe wholeheartedly the national reports, which I believe them, but I wonder about the severity, if it were severe, you would think he'd be done, that he would have to go on IR, that he'd be done for the year, and that would be the last of Jimmy based on the tear and the fleck of bone coming off in that tear. But I'm thinking that there's at least a chance he makes it out for week 18. I want to know what Lance has to do in order to solidify that, or whether, regardless of what he does, Kyle will go back to Jimmy. Do you have a sense of that yourself?
I'll go. Let me start. Yeah, this would be my opinion. If Jimmy is even on the practice field today, for anything because he wasn't there at all yesterday. It
Right.
was just Lance and Sudfeld, right? So if he's even out there, I don't even care if he's tossing balls underhand, as long as he's in a jersey on the practice field and putting balls in his hand and doing something with it. I think Jimmy's the backup QB on Sunday. He doesn't go on IR.
All right. I just looked at Twitter and got the DNP for Jimmy Garoppolo. Did not practice. How does that impact your thought?
Thank you, because honestly, I jumped on here. I didn't even get a chance to listen to the.
It just came out on Twitter moments ago.
Perfect. So then, if that's the case, I'm not going to speak on the IR part of it because that doesn't tell me he's going to IR. That just tells me 99% chance we're going to see Lance now because we know history. If you don't practice Wednesday and Thursday, Shanahan's pretty darn strict with, then you're not playing. I mean, you're not. This isn't a situation where you're a Nick Bosa. You're the quarterback. You need reps, so you're not playing. So the IR thing, I'll just wait. I'm not a genie in a bottle type guy. Like, I don't know. If he goes on IR, then that's the last we saw of Garoppolo in a 49er uniform, in my opinion. But to go to the second part of it, what does Lance have to do, assuming Jimmy is able to play in Week 18? The Rams are a better team than the Texans.
Yes.
So if this is 100% assuming Garoppolo can play Week 18, Lance better be impressive. Because at the end of the day, if we barely scoot by the Texans because of our offense, a 9-6, 13-10, where we all sit back and go, oh, we got to be patient with him, but that's not going to work against the Rams. We need more firepower. We're not going to be able to run it 40 times again. I don't think they're going to let us do that in their house. I think their fans will be booing them by the second quarter. So we're going to need Lance to show us exactly what you've talked about all week. Show me Garoppolo plus. And every one of those pluses need to be explosives because ultimately Garoppolo does everything else. So the plus is explosive passes outside the numbers or big third down plays or extend drives with your legs and allow us to get back into the running game. As long as he can continue to get those drives down the field, help us limit possessions, let us see the 49er football, then I think we'll all be excited, as well as Shanahan getting his trust gained even further to allow us to be excited about Week 18. Otherwise, I'm not Debbie Downer. I'm a realistic person. If we barely skate by the Texans and there's nothing that made us get super excited about Lance, it's going to be very tough to have incredible optimism against that team when we're not built to play from behind.
Right.
And the reason we were ahead the first game was because of Jimmy Ward, literally Jimmy Ward. So we can't count on that again. It's just one of those things. We've got to hope that Lance is doing what he's been doing the last 4 weeks based on Fred Warner, and that he's going to come out and put his best foot forward and really show us exactly why we why we decided to use all that capital to put him in that position. Because here he is in front of our home crowd, able to light a fire under Levi's and get us excited for the Rams Week 18.
Yeah, I tend to think that you are close on what it would require to not go back to Jimmy, given his track record against LA and seemingly Kyle Shanahan's desire to really stick to Jimmy as what he believes to be his best option this year to win games, in particular going into the playoffs. I do think Cook and Smoke Sports brings up an interesting point, saying the kid's a rookie. You can't expect him to be plus. And I agree with the portion of that statement I agree with is the expectation. I don't think you can expect him to be that, but you can hope that he's that. And in order to unseat the veteran in coming back in Week 18, if in fact he were healthy and could prove that to Shanahan, I think that's what Shanahan would be looking for, is the plus of the legs and the arm on top of executing the offense as a whole. I think that's what would be required to grab hold of that starting role and not relinquish it. Well, Chris, I know last time we were able to go for a bit. We've got a waiting room full now. I'm going to need to transition, but if you're still around, I will definitely transition back to you because I know you and I could go for days talking Niners.
Hey, Rob, without a doubt, bud. I'm always here just to support. I'll be in here. So if you want me to come back in, more than happy to. And hey, Niner faithful, let's get them this week. Nothing
Appreciate that. Thank you, Sean. Cheers to you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
All right, I'm heading on to Waruna. Waruna, you are coming. Waruna, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing okay.
Very
I
nice,
hope
very
you're doing
nice.
good
What are
as
you
well.
thinking about in Niners Nation this fine Thursday?
Okay. So just I want to address something I talked with Jesse last night as well about the Thursday night game last Thursday. And
Okay.
by the way, I really hate when we don't have Thursday night football. I wish we have football. We need something.
Yes,
But
got to
anyway,
fill the week somehow. The NFL's trying to take over every day of the week, and now they have got it down to Sunday, Monday, Thursday, some Saturdays. Pretty soon they'll have every day of the week.
yeah, it's like NFL is trying. Like you are giving the kid some candy every day, and all of a sudden say, no, you can't have that habit going forward only on Sundays. And kid is like, oh my god. So anyway, about the Titans game now, there is a, let's say, percentage wise saying that defense is responsible for the loss, right?
Mm,
I want to address that.
okay.
Here's my argument now. Now, I mean, myself, of course. I pointed out that the Green Bay Packers game, Bengals game, some other games that Jimmy Garoppolo had up and down games,
Right.
right? The counter argument was that, okay, against Packers, first half, yes, it was bad. He did not move the offense that well, but second half, he came back. He was
Mm-hmm.
within a field. I mean, defense gave away the field goal again in the Bengals. Yes, he came back to tie the game. Then overtime win everything. So ideally, the meaning is that you can't judge. You don't get to judge Jimmy Garoppolo from his ups and downs, but you have to like evaluate the entire package. Whether Jimmy guide you to win the game, judge him on his entire performance, right?
Sure. That
so
makes sense.
so that yeah, so that's the logic or the counter argument came up with. So now let's apply the same logic for the defensive performance on Thursday. The possession of the football shared 30 minutes equally between
Yep.
two teams. That means the defense gave the same opportunity to the 49 offense. Okay, because the same time, okay, you have the same time to score whatever the points. Then Titans scored 24 points per average in this season per game. And this defense held Titans for 20 points, which included 7 points that Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception led to a drive started in 18-yard line. And this defense has Josh Norman and Ambry Thomas starting. Now you tell me, right? I mean, all of the guys who are making this argument, now you tell me, why don't you judge this defense as a whole to the entire game? They did
Mm,
not give extra time to the Titans offense to score the same time and held them back, but still, Jimmy Garoppolo could not get the team over the line. So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. He is 100% responsible for that loss.
Okay, so you take that logical. So I think the only place that I disagree with you is taking the logical leap from it's not on the defense in the majority to then saying it's 100% on Jimmy. So you had me 100% of the way, the entire way. I was with you up until that logical leap there. And let me tell you, sort of how I see it and how it's a little bit different in my view. I agree that if you are assigning blame in that game, in the game against Tennessee, in particular, you're looking at the entirety of the game. If you're looking at the defense, you cannot assign the majority of the blame to the defense because they were lights out in the first half and in totality only allowed 20 points, right? If you allow
Yes.
20 points, even though you didn't force any turnovers, you would like to think that you've set up the offense for success. And so I think you cannot pin the blame on the defense. But the way that I see it is while Jimmy Garoppolo deserves the majority of the blame, well above 50%, I cannot attribute 100% of the blame to him because that feels like a reduction of the overall problem. While I acknowledge the defense was so good in the first half, their inability to get off of the field in the second half, in particular, in so many ideal third and long scenarios where you had Nick Bosa matched up against a second or third string tackle, those are opportunities where they should have gotten off the field. And so I can't let them off the hook entirely. I'm not trying to blame the defense for the loss, but when I assign percentages of attributing blame, I have to lay some percentage with the defense because of that fact that they allowed 5 or 6 third and longs completions over and over again to A.J. Brown. That doesn't take away my blame for Jimmy Garoppolo, but I also have to throw some on the defense. And I would guess if you asked Fred Warner or Nick Bosa, they would be pointing to themselves and what they failed to do in sealing a victory as opposed to pointing at Jimmy, even if they thought Jimmy screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's the middle, what do you call, meeting in the middle, the argument. Okay,
Yes.
Jimmy screwed up as well, defense screwed up as well. But the Jimmy fans do not allow us to meet in the middle. If you point out, they would say Jimmy wins. That's argument.
Yeah. The
Then
only
the-
thing I would say there is I think that we have a tendency to want to put people into groups, and I think that at times that's a bad practice. You could label me a Jimmy fan, but the reality is I'm a 49er fan. That I don't care who's starting. I'm a Trey fan. I'm a Jimmy fan. I'm a Mostert fan. I'm a Mitchell fan. Like you name a 49er, whether they're hurt or playing or whatever, I'm a fan. And so I think that when we get into that polarization, when we begin to talk about the people who favor Trey and we begin to talk about the people who favor Jimmy, we are feeding into that narrative. So I caution 49ers fans to automatically put people into those groups. But I agree with you wholeheartedly in that the truth is in the middle of those two, that the fun conversations happen when you set aside the polarization BS and you get to the real dialogue and you start talking about what's facts and what happened. Because you and I may feel differently about this, but we're having a great conversation about it, right?
Exactly. Because just before coming on to your show, I saw a tweet again on Twitter saying, can you explain why 49ers won 8 games this season? Basically pointing out Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason. Right. So basically, okay, I would ask back, okay, how did 49ers lost 7 games as well?
That's a fair question.
Right. So that's the problem, because sometimes you try to address people with logic, fair arguments, and they just come up with just emotional points. And then you feel like, okay, let me just be lunatic as well. Let me just fight back. Let me just be the jerk here as well. So I think personally, actually, I think that's a very interesting point. I look back my year on Twitter.
Yeah.
I started very slowly. In the sense like trying to be the person that can meet you in the middle and always try to have a fair argument. But after some time, I think I have to blame myself. I lost the person in me that I started to be like just shooting people, just saying okay, whatever.
But Twitter's a hard place. Twitter is the worst of everyone's personality. I don't know why. I don't understand it, and it frustrates me to no end. I try to be me no matter where I am, but people seem to think Twitter is the spot where you put all of your negativity and all of that BS. And so, it is what it is. That is a hard space to be reasonable in. And it's hard to do a well-argued argument in so few characters as well, right? You get these short one-line punchlines and then people respond off of that. It's hard to have a very succinct conversation.
That's the thing. So other than that, about this Trey Lance starting thing, I really do wish Jimmy gets to, depending on his health situation, but he gets to finish this season, because I feel like there needs to be a proper closure for everything,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
the guy who started it. Because I mean, we said okay, Trey Lance should start because it will help him to probably be a good quarterback. I'm not sure whether he will be a top 10 quarterback, but at least that he gives us a chance for a Super Bowl maybe in 2023. Because 2022, the schedule would be really difficult given the fact that we are going to play AFC West. I
Right.
mean, so
That's the
that's
other
going to
tough
be,
division in football.
yes. So you are going to have like 10 tough games,
Yes.
6 division games plus 4. So that's why I thought starting Trey Lance sooner the better. But anyway, since Jimmy started, I want to give him the best opportunity just to finish it off. And if we get to the playoffs, do whatever he can, because I think like we are complicating things too much, bringing Trey Lance into the equation at this moment. It's too
Yeah.
late,
Yeah.
because what are we going to lose here? By not starting Trey Lance. I don't think Trey Lance will gain anything specifically starting this point, even if he get to play a playoff game or two, maybe. I
Right.
think,
He'll get some
yeah,
experience, but you bring up a very interesting point here. As a guy who loves storylines, Waruna, you have just painted two very distinct storylines, and I could get behind either one of them, and now you have made me torn. And so I appreciate that you've made me think of this and consider which storyline I find to be more compelling. You present one, which is Jimmy Garoppolo earned this position. Jimmy Garoppolo set up the 49ers to be where they are. He raised this organization out of where they were in 2017. He deserves the right to finish it off on his terms in a positive way, even if that means, exiting from the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. But the other storyline that I hope can happen as well is the Trey coming in and being the savior at this point. That even though what we've seen so far wouldn't lead you to believe it, that he has the talent, the raw talent to just be special enough to come in for a multiple game run that teams don't have tape on him, and that he could lead some magical postseason ride. And so both of those are very appealing to me. Honestly, I'm on board with whichever one gets the 49ers deeper into the playoffs and potentially getting that Super Bowl victory. Waruna, I really appreciate the dialogue. I got to get down to the waiting room down there. That Niner guy has been waiting. He is up next. But thank you so much for calling in again. It is always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
it was always talking. It was always a pleasure talking with you. Have a good night.
And you as well, good sir. Enjoy your New Year's celebration. All right, bringing in that Niner guy. I think that Niner guy is going audio only. How you doing, that Niner guy?
Schuh, my man. What's up, buddy?
I am doing pretty well. Like I said, the weather here in Portland is crap at the moment, but my spirits are good, and that's what's important.
There it is. See, the funny thing is, I was in Denver. My sister just had a baby right around Christmas, like a few months ago. So we went to Denver for Christmas.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Denver was beautiful. There wasn't a lick of snow on the ground. And it's nothing. It was like 40 degrees. It was 45 degrees during the day, just about like the Bay Area.
Ooh, that's nice.
It was crazy. It was honestly unbelievable how nice it was.
Late snow this season, and then when it got here, it just dumped on us. I mean, just fell out of the sky in bucketfuls. Pretty crazy.
That's good. Anyway, man. Well, anyway, stay safe, stay warm, all that good stuff.
Amen
but anyway,
to that.
Let's talk about our favorite person in Niner Nation, Patrick Willis and Bryant Young. Everyone clap it up. I know I tricked you, didn't I? I tricked you. I thought we were going Jimmy or Trey. No, everyone though, congrats to those two. They're top 15 finalists for the Hall of Fame. No one cares right now though because of Trey Lance and Jimmy.
Right. It is totally swept under the rug because of the other storylines.
It's completely lost. But anyway, first of all, let's start with congrats to those two.
Yes.
Definition of 49er greats. As far as me, I'm in my late 20s. Patrick Willis was the best player on the team for his entire tenure on the team.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable player. When you go back and watch him and Bowman, when you go watch those highlights, they are flying all over that field. It is so beautiful to behold.
Oh, my favorite play still is that tip Walt Harris pick in Seattle, where Willis comes underneath it and houses it from 75 yards out.
He was so fast at the start of his career, so damn fast.
When I played high school ball, I wore 52 because of Patrick Willis.
Nice. I still have my Patrick Willis jersey hanging up there in the closet, no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. No, me too. All right, let's get to the current team.
Okay.
And I have a theory, and I want everyone to calm down before I say it. Is it better if the 49ers lose out with Trey Lance and he plays good?
Okay, so you're proposing or asking, is it better for the 49ers to lose this week and next, but Trey plays for both of those games and plays well?
Yes. And here's my rationale.
Okay.
I'm like a football freak in that sense, where I go and I look at scouting stuff and I look at, guys who are going to be available.
Right.
And the top 50 players in this draft, there's probably 7 or 8 edge rushers that'll be on the board and throughout the top 50. When you go from Aiden Hutchinson in the front to a guy who's in the back right now named Jamar Johnson from Florida State, who I think is a freaking stud. And he probably is going to fly up the draft board, and the Ravens are going to take him, and everyone's going to call the Ravens a bunch of geniuses.
Right. Of course they will.
Of course they will. But this team's going to look so different next year. I think this coming off season is going to be far more interesting than what happened last year with the trade up. And everyone,
isn't that wild to imagine that it could possibly be any more enthralling than that? I mean, that's pretty crazy. But I think you're right. We only have 31 players under contract.
And also the Niners are going to make some tough decisions, right? I think one of the decisions they have to seriously consider is, do you trade Mike McGlinchey? Because you can't cut him on a 5th-year option. But if you trade him, there's no cap hit.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's all just guaranteed a 1-year deal. It would transfer to the new team.
Exactly. So that's something they'd have to consider because, they're gonna all assuming Garoppolo is released or traded, hopefully traded. Right now, still, let's be real, guys. It's looking like a release. I know Colin Cowherd is really pushing that Jimmy Garoppolo trade market thing, but I don't know, guys. I play this game with my friends when they tell me they can trade Jimmy for something good. I go, okay, let's play this game. You're a general manager and I'm your owner. Tell me you just traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. And they go, uh-oh. I go, yeah, exactly my point. Like, what does the owner say back to you? Get out. I'm pissed at you. What did you do? Because we're going to be in the same spot we are already in.
I do think that is more of a 49er fan view that we are all guilty of because of the emotional roller coaster that we've been on with Jimmy Garoppolo, as opposed to the national narrative. Now, that may be because they're less informed on the quarterback.
True.
But when you listen to the national broadcasters and all of the folks that evaluate on a national level, they all hold him in fairly high regard. So you could picture that potentially being reflected in the front offices of the NFL. I personally would still put a high 2nd or low 3rd round grade on a trade for Jimmy, with the understanding that a deal would need to be in place with the new GM, that, a wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of a deal that explains a 3-year deal that makes a much more palatable cap hit. I don't think anyone's doing it and paying him, the $27 million for the 1 year that's remaining on his contract. I think there has to be some give and take there, but I still see there as being value. So I could see your friend's take on that.
No, I completely agree. Right. I think the only way you can trade him is in the background of what's probably going to happen is Don Yee's going to be the one who's going to orchestrate the trade, essentially, right? Because the agent's going to be the one saying, okay, they're giving a 3rd, they'll do this contract. They're going to give a 2nd, but they're going to give you this contract. I'm saying in generalities. There's no way in hell we get a 2nd round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know, maybe, because it was funny because Alex Smith, when both times he got traded, it was 2-2s both times.
Right.
It was 2-2s. The Niners got 2-2s, and the Chiefs, I think, maybe got a 2 and a conditional 3rd that they ended up not getting because Alex Smith's poor guy snapped his leg. That was cool. But that's what I'm also telling people too. Like, you make that trade for Alex Smith because you know what you're going to get.
Yes, very consistent.
Do you get that trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? The only thing he's consistent at, I think it's something you said, he's consistent at being inconsistent.
Yep, he most definitely is. So I think you're talking about it's got to be a head coach who believes I can fix him. He's got high upside. He's got a great quick release. He's inconsistent, but I can fix him. It's Kyle Shanahan's perfectionist system that causes him to freak out. But in mine, it'll work. I still have my eye on Pittsburgh as a landing destination with their quick passing game. His quick release could be a good compliment, and certainly Ben is stepping out the door.
Yeah, well, Ben's retired. But the thing with Pittsburgh is like they're only a quick release team because of Ben. Like
that's a fair statement.
They don't want to be that. They want to be a team that uses Chase Claypool deep on the outside, Deontay Johnson in the intermediate deep routes, which is like the kind of the Debo role, which would fit that offense somewhat well.
Yeah.
But the team actually I think is the most interesting is the Giants.
Okay, interesting. I like that.
I have a feeling Gettleman's getting canned. They're going to keep Joe Judge. And Joe, I think what's going to happen is they're going to steal a New England executive to pair with Joe. And then it's going to be New England Central over there. See, that's where I possibly think that could be the move, because I think a new general manager is going to want to dump Daniel Jones. That team has a ton of money wrapped into a lot of veteran players. They have 1 year left of Saquon Barkley. They got to try and make something work. And you're not going to put that in Daniel Jones or rookie's hands. Because Daniel Jones is even more injured than Jimmy is, which is crazy to talk about. But Daniel Jones basically has missed this most of the season and even the last couple of years as well.
That would be an interesting destination. I love the prediction of keeping Joe Judge and letting Gettleman go and bringing in a New England executive. And with those ties to New England, that could be what seals the deal and getting a trade done. I like that one.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Washington could be there as well. I think Carolina's the reason why I hope Carolina is I would love to flip a corner for Jimmy, not a pick.
I would love that. You think it's Stephon Gilmore?
No, because he's a free agent, so they'd have to sign him. And then
I would think a sign and trade in that instance.
I was thinking they're not going to trade J.C. Horn, but maybe Deontay Jackson, or he might be a free agent too. I think he's restricted. But Deontay Jackson or even A.J. Boye, who's a veteran. That
would be nice.
Because I feel like the Niners, the only reason why they're playing more zone right now is because they can't trust Norman and Ambry Thomas deep. And that's totally fair. It's not Ambry's fault. He's kind of been the prelude to what Trey Lance has been. He's thrown into the fire. They're figure it out, dude. Swim, don't sink. Trey is going to be somewhat in that situation a little bit because let's be honest, practice only gets you so much. It's game reps that make you better. That's the one thing about Davis Mills. He's improved a lot because he's played enough.
Yes, not a lot.
He did sit down quite a bit. They did bench him. He wasn't playing all that well for a little portion of the season. They put Tyrod Taylor in. They were a little competitive here and there. But now he's kind of taking a step back and sort of kind of fallen into place. But in general, that's what I want. The Niners need to find a way to make this team better with having a lot more holes than they did last year. Now
they do, and cornerback is certainly one of the biggest. If they could get a deal done that brought back a veteran corner instead of a pick, that would almost be a bigger win because you've got someone that's established that's not a 50-50 shot like it would be taking a corner in the second round. You already need to take an edge rusher in the second round. So unless you do get second round compensation for Jimmy, you aren't going to have that additional second to take the corner. Now you're looking at a third round corner. You're well below 50% success rate there. So I'm with you on attempting to bring in a veteran. I think that would be a savvy trade move. I'm going to keep my eye on New York as you predicted it. That Niner guy, this was a great call. I got to get down to the waiting room for those folks still waiting, but I would love to have you call back in next week when we do this again, my friend.
Sure, you'll have a caller for sure, my man. Have a great new year. Let's hope the Niners win. I know I said I kind of want them to lose because I want them to have a top 50 pick. You'll see why when the draft process gets rolling. It's all the Niner fans.
I will be getting into that draft process heavily in this offseason, my friend. All right, that Niner guy, have a pleasant New Year's Eve celebration.
You too, man. Take care.
Hey, take care. All right, bringing in Chris. Oh, Chris is out. That means I forgive you. You get to jump the line because Chris just missed. Oh, no, Chris is right there. I forgive you. I'll be right there. Chris just moved over one because someone dropped off the line. That's me not understanding how the waiting room works. Chris, how you doing, man? You're muted there.
There we go.
Nice. Good to see you, buddy. Chris and I had the privilege of meeting one another in Seattle at the game, Niners sideline. That was fantastic. Not quite the outcome we were hoping for on that freaking game. Very disappointing. But it was a pleasure meeting you, good sir.
Yes, definitely a pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you.
So what are your thoughts about Jimmy Garoppolo? I'm assuming that tomorrow's probably the last day that he has to be able to practice before they say for sure that he's not going to play in Sunday's game. Am I correct?
I would think that a Friday partial practice would be at a minimum what's required to get him in for the game.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to. I think this is just, them trying to keep the Texans guessing as best as possible on who they're going to put in. I kind of want to say that I have a feeling that if Trey Lance struggles and we barely win, that they probably bring Jimmy Garoppolo back for the last week. I hope that's not the case, but that's my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts?
I do think that you're right there. So I believe that it will play out in this way. This is my official crystal ball prediction here. Is that, and I'll go 1 week at a time. I think it is just smoke and mirrors. I do not think that there's a chance Jimmy plays. The idea that, he didn't throw all week from Thursday to Wednesday, that's one sign. And then he goes out to practice, and before the reporters are allowed to go out there and witness anything that's going on, he wraps up his throwing session, tucks his arm into a hand warmer, and is walking off the field as the beat reporters are coming on. So 0 throws in front of anyone who can then tell us what those throws look like, and then did not practice at all. Did not practice at all today. To me, all of those signs are trending towards a heavy will not play this week. And you invested, all this draft capital into Trey Lance and made him your backup quarterback for just this type of occasion, for just this scenario where Jimmy Garoppolo, who you've propped up and called your starting quarterback the entire year, cannot go. And you need someone, marginally more capable than CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins to come in and potentially win you a game based solely on his physical assets that he brings to the table. I do think it would take, if Jimmy is healthy then for week 18. So that's the unknown, because if Jimmy's not healthy, then we can't have this dialogue, right? Then it's Trey all the way. But if Jimmy recovers enough, gets enough tensile strength in that thumb to legitimately make a case for coming back in week 18, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I have definitive proof that Jimmy is capable of dismantling the Rams, right? He's done that on multiple occasions. So I can have faith in that. What I don't know, what is the unknown quantity, is the young rookie and what he might be able to do against the Rams. So unless he demonstrates a heck of a lot in this start against the Texans, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I have to go with the known quantity. If he's healthy, I could see Kyle going back to Jimmy. That's not what I really want to see. I don't want the back and forth. I would rather that the storyline is Trey gets to start this weekend and he lights the world on fire, and we don't need to have the debate. But that may be wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it would take probably 14-point blowout of the Texans for Kyle Shanahan to be like, well, look, we're going to play the hot hand and keep Lance in there. But I think if we just squeak by a win, like 3 points, something like that, then that gives him the out to be like, well, Jimmy's pretty healthy. We're going into LA against the Rams, and they're a tough team. We're going to need as much firepower as possible, and he'll think that probably Jimmy Garoppolo is the best bet on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly what Kyle Shanahan wants is someone who can execute the system. And I think in the comments, Sam here is a little irritated with my use of the physical attributes comment. Says, you have got to stop with the physical ability BS. He's a quarterback, and they are going to have to show it off, period, or we are going to have a hell of an offseason. So I think while Sam may be, a little bit irritated with the overuse of that term throughout, I stand by it in my use of it because I agree. And people who have heard my complete argument, I think, understand that, yes, I think that Trey has to be able to do what Jimmy does, which is operate successfully within this offense. If he's not able to demonstrate that he can operate the system and then add on to it with the physical abilities, then Kyle is for sure going to go with the veteran. Because if there's one thing we know about Kyle Shanahan, he believes he's giving you, as his quarterback, the answers to the test. If then in the testing session, you cannot provide those answers back on the field, he gets really, really frustrated. You can watch him on the sidelines in real time. It happens. So I do think that Trey has to be able to execute from inside the pocket and, oh, by the way, add that stuff on the outside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And then just one last thing, going back to Thursday's game, if I was going to put a percentage on who's to blame, I would say that, Jimmy Garoppolo shares probably the most of the blame, probably about 80%. But I'd put more blame on D'Amico Ryans than the actual defense themselves because, I mean, we're looking at, Ryan Tannehill finished with 209 yards and A.J. Brown accounted for 140 of that. So as a defensive coordinator, if you can't, scheme something to where you're stopping one person, that's a pretty big issue. So I would definitely put more blame on D'Amico Ryan than the actual defensive players themselves. But, the defensive players also have to, they get paid millions of dollars to play this sport. They need to, not let one guy beat them as well.
Yeah, I think I could get into the percentages and probably go one way or the other. And I'd have to really work it out to get where I felt comfortable with percentages. But what I agree wholeheartedly on is D'Amico shouldering some level of that blame because I did not see the level of adjustments I would have wanted to see in the chips on Bosa. It rendered him basically useless against what was a patchwork offensive line. And you cannot have that happen. If you've got strength against weakness, you've got to capitalize against that, right? You had a third string tackle and a less than stellar tackle on the other side, a second string guard, right? It was ugly. And because they went to max protect, because they chipped Bosa, regardless of which side he went to, we just had no answer for it. And to your point on A.J. Brown, you've got to be able to bracket cover the guy. They took away George Kittle. Now, you could say that, hey, Debo had the same or better statistical game than A.J. Brown. They couldn't handle him. But I think we had to get more creative in scheming Debo to get the yards that he did, whereas A.J. Brown, they just put him out there and threw the ball up, and the man came down with it, right? So I agree. Yeah. I think that there is blame to go on both sides. That to me, it was one of D'Amico's rougher games as a first-year defensive coordinator, and I give him credit because I think he's had a great season. But that and the Green Bay game, I thought he struggled, and I do think that you have to attribute the blame to the individual defensive players as well. Fred Warner missed a couple of tackles, the most important being the one on Tannehill on that scramble on the drive where they ended up kicking that field goal. But I think you're right. There's enough blame to go around in that one.
For sure.
Before I let you go, Chris, I have to. I think I had it down, but as a guy with a last name like Schuh, that's spelled as it is, I am obsessed with pronunciation. Clarify for me one last time. If I already asked you once, I apologize. But is it Royal or Royale?
I guess it depends on the person. I say Royal, but I've heard people say Royale, and I mean, I don't correct them or anything.
I'm going with how you pronounce it. I'm going to take your pronunciation as the most correct of all of them out there. So Royal, that helps me. Every time I said Royale, I'm picturing Samuel L. Jackson with the Royale with cheese. Or was that John, what's his name, from Pulp Fiction? John Travolta.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I say royal, but to each his own.
Yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate that.
Um, I think Trey Lance is going to ball out though. I really do. I think they're gonna have a hard time containing him, and I really see us winning by at least 14 points. So hopefully, it'll make it much more difficult for Shanahan to go back to Jimmy Garoppolo if he's healthy.
I sure hope so. I've got it down as 34-16, man. I hope I'm right on this one. I can't take any more damn close games. I need a blowout, Coach Shanahan. I need a freaking blowout at this point.
Agreed.
Well, it has been a pleasure, Chris. I hope that you call back in on some of the future episodes of the Sneakerhead call-in show. And again, pleasure to meet you in person. Hopefully we have an opportunity
Absolutely.
for that again.
I plan on going next year, so hopefully you're there.
Most definitely. I always try to make that Seattle game. All right, Chris, enjoy your New Year's celebration, my friend.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I forgive you. You are popping into the stream. How are you doing, sir? Nice to see you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sounding good.
I'm good. I'm good. You know, it's 2020. It's about to be 2022. Come on, let's go with Trey, man. I'm tired of it. It's Trey time.
I hear you, man. We need a glimpse into the future that gives us confidence going into 2022.
I got you. Okay, I'm 4-0 in my career as a 49er at the Candlestick. I haven't been to Levi Stadium, but I'm going today. And just being a faithful, I know this is God's team. So
yes,
it's Trey's time. And just happened that the day I'm going, it's been since 2012. I've been there. Trey's starting. I'm bringing my daughter. It's her first game. It's his first. It's going to be Trey's first win. It's going to be my first win at Levi. I never lost at the game, so I think I need to start going to more games.
Yes, I think we need to start a GoFundMe so that we can get you at every single game. Niner Faithful would get their money's worth in sending you to multiple games each year.
And then I'm from Sacramento, and we started. Bang Bang Niner game came from Sacramento, California.
Nice. Have you been up in Sacramento for a long time there? Were you
born
and raised?
Life.
Nice.
Born and
raised. I used to be up in the Central Valley from like 96 through like 2004. I went to school out in Stockton, and so I was just down the road from you.
Oh, yeah. You were too far. But, yeah, it's just time, man. Jimmy had a lot of time, man.
Yes. And he has shown us what he can do and what his limitations are. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And he's stretching the field and able to run out the pocket is a dynamic the 49ers haven't had since Steve Young.
Right.
I think it's time we get back. I mean, Kaepernick bring it too. But Kaepernick, he just couldn't really stretch the ball down the field. But I know Kaepernick would have hit Juszczyk wide open against Tennessee.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, he would have.
That game would have been completely different. People got to understand the quarterback changes your whole team. If you make those plays, that stops injuries from happening. That stops a lot of stuff from happening during games. Look at Packers. Look at Aaron Rodgers' team. Every year, hurt or not, they go to where they go because of that quarterback play.
Man, he lifts up that entire team. There's no doubt about it. I'm hoping that Trey being on the field is that spark that gets the rest of the squad to lift up their game.
I remember in the Cardinals game when he played, it seemed like he was the only one on the field to me.
He was balling out in that game. If we had just managed to put points on the board, it would have been a completely different conversation coming out of it.
So, I mean, Jimmy did a good thing. He ain't the 5-0 Jimmy I thought we had, when we first got him. I was excited.
Me too.
I was extremely excited. I thought he did his job. He did a lot of good work for us, man. He helped get us out of a lot of ruts. But it's just, Jimmy, it's a new season. Let's go. It's time let's go with Trey. It's time.
Yes. I mean, I appreciate everything Jimmy has brought to the team. And if healthy for week 18, it's a dialogue. It's a conversation that needs to take place. But, we lost him. But I'll finish my thought here and I'll bring him back in, is that we do have to recognize his contributions to this point. But if Trey comes in and totally lights it up and performs in the way in which I think a lot of Niner faithful are hoping that he will, then it becomes a really difficult decision on that week 18. I think you can consider going back to Jimmy and bring in Trey if for some reason Jimmy falters. But as soon as you start that back and forth, then you're ebbing away at folks' confidence, right? It's tough. You're definitely, I'm going to put the link in the chat for I Forgive You. He's trying to come back in. Hopefully he can. But yeah, it is, it's a tough decision. I certainly like the storyline of Trey coming in and never looking back, because what I wrap my mind around is that Trey Lance is the absolute future of this franchise, right? There's just no doubt about it that the 49ers want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They've invested everything they have in Trey Lance, and so they will most definitely make that move at some point. The injury has forced their hand right now. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish that Jimmy hadn't gotten injured and had finished this out. But at the same time, it has played out in the way it did. Glad you're back, my friend.
I'm sorry.
No, quite all right. Hey, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, but like you were saying, I was listening. Trey would change your franchise. Then you can move pieces around. You ain't got to be too reliant on the D-line. You ain't got to be too reliant on Fred Warner to make every play.
Yes, you become a team that is capable of more explosive plays. Yeah. And that's
I remember the year when we had Harbaugh. And then I remember it was the year when we was doing so good. And then I remember when they started Russell Wilson. And then I remember it was like the end of the year. I'm like, they scored 40. I'm like, what the hell? I was scared instantly. I knew something was going on. I'm like, hold on. And then I seen them in the playoffs. Even when they lost to Washington, Russell Wilson was like, he was so excited. He said, oh, yeah, we're going to get something. We got something going. And we need that. Even if we go to the playoffs and we lose, Trey needs to know that he's this guy and it's his team, and we done with the bullshit. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That you do have to at some point acknowledge Trey's the future and prioritize his confidence, prioritize him getting some good experience if you're looking at a dichotomy where it is a less than healthy Jimmy Garoppolo versus a healthy Trey Lance. I think if you get back to a fully healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, then you're looking at Kyle Shanahan's decision. And up to this point, he's been real clear that decision is the veteran, right? So if healthy, I bet they go back to Jimmy G, but that's a big question mark, judging by the injury.
Well, I think Kyle does that because of the locker room.
Yeah, that could be.
With Trey. I mean, with Jimmy. He's trying. But I'm just saying, if Shanahan knows Trey's the guy, when he sees him and he's on the field, there's nothing you can tell that man. The mad scientist is going to make it happen.
Yes, that's what I want. I want Trey to be able to prove definitively he belongs on that field and he is not relinquishing control of that locker room. I want him to snatch it from the jaws of Jimmy. I mean, nothing against Jimmy. Again, that storyline would be cool, but
I want to see my quarterback with the capital with the 4-star Trey Lance.
That would be beautiful. That would be beautiful.
That's what we need.
Amen to that.
But I appreciate what you're doing, and this is the first time I ever did this, and I just loved your energy. And I said, and you're a sneakerhead like I'm a sneakerhead. I like a lot of shoes.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate having you on, man. I really, really like having animated callers in here. Your energy is fantastic, and I hope that you'll call in future weeks, my friend.
I got you.
Appreciate it. All right, enjoy your New Year's, man. Be safe out there.
I sure will. You too.
Thanks, man. Later. All right, I'm going to a super chat, and then I am going to Crazy B Cody. All right, we got 2 super chats I'm throwing in. Here we go. Where is it? Come on. Philip coming in. Trey has to show he can execute the offense. He doesn't need to win the game. If 49ers lose the game, don't blame Trey unless he actually lost it. That's a very succinct point there. That, yes, he needs to come in, show that he can operate from the pocket, execute Shanahan's system. That is first and foremost. If he can't do that, regardless of what physical gifts he may display on the field, I do not see Shanahan putting him back out there. Kyle Shanahan wants his system run to perfection. That is what I understand of him as a head coach. So if Trey's unable to deliver on that, I could see him wanting to go back to Jimmy sooner rather than later. And I would agree, this last part seems directed most at the 49er faithful, which is you can lose the game for any number of reasons. It is not, wins and losses are not a quarterback stat, as much as we want to make them such, as much as we point to Jimmy contributing to the 49ers by pointing to their record with him and their record without him. It is an incomplete argument to say that those wins are as a result of Jimmy Garoppolo, in the same way that it's incomplete to say any one loss is directly attributable to one player, even in a game like the one against Tennessee, where there are any number of mistakes you can point to for that. So yes, I would agree. Patience with the rookie. Don't go in with huge expectations. Go in with hope, and then leave and take it at face value, and we will learn a hell of a lot more about that young gentleman after Sunday, because I anticipate it will be him and not Garoppolo out there. Luke Luna coming in with the donation and the super sticker. Luke, appreciate that. Absolutely do. Hope you're doing well. Luke is probably out there tattooing at the moment. AJ Silva coming in. Appreciate the A+ content, Rob. Go Niners. I appreciate you taking the time for the donation and to put that in there as a compliment. All right. I am bringing in Crazy B Cody. Can you hear me, Cody? Cody, you're on mute just in case you can't hear me. Give him just a moment to see if, in fact, he unmutes. Crazy B Cody, are you there, my friend? Are you going once? Going twice. Sold. All right, I'm leaving you in the waiting room there. I'm going back to talk to Sean, because Sean and I are not done conversing Niners. And if you are still there, turn your video on so I can see it, and I'll flip it back over to you to close out. Does that sound good? All right, Cody. Sean is coming back in. Let's finish this dialogue. Sean, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. So you and I we kind of go off on tangents a lot, and time goes crazy. But I listen to everybody. Let's touch on some of the things some of our guys have brought up here.
Let's do it.
Jimmy G, what is he worth? So we'll get what a lot of people have to realize. The NFL is a business. Okay, there are 32 teams that have people get hired and fired every single year, during the season, out of season, GMs, coaches, quarterbacks, coaches, you name it. And every single one of them get fired for almost the same reason, quarterback. Because if your quarterback, you don't see Aaron Rodgers' GMs getting fired and coaches getting fired. You don't see Brady's coaches getting fired. It is what it is. You never saw Steve Young's coach get fired. You never saw Joe Montana. So these guys are all looking for somebody at the end of the day to save their job. Now, that's not what we want from 49ers franchise. We're looking for someone to get us a Super Bowl. But teams like the Lions, now teams like Pittsburgh, when Ben leaves, go down the line. The Browns, all of those teams that have mediocre play from their quarterback, they're going to see someone like Jimmy and go, oh, man, you know what? I don't need to hope in the draft. I'll give up. What do the Niners want? Okay, a third, a second, or whatever it ends up being. I know he's got 27 mil, but just like you brought up, of course, no one's going to pay 27 mil. Just like Rodgers' contract next year. He's a 46 mil cap hit.
Yeah.
No one's going to do that.
Nobody's paying that. As good as he is, nobody's paying that.
It's sign an extension. It's just the only way it's going to play. And
amortize it out.
100%. And if a team is desperate, they're not going to let him get released, because there's no guarantee that he's going to want to sign with them. So you may as well trade, because he doesn't have a no trade clause at this point. Take what you can get for him. Somebody will give it to him. And Jimmy knows he's not worth 137 mil anymore. No one's going to pay him that. So go to a team that's willing to say you're the starter and just get an extension. Who cares? A year, 2 years. Give us a draft pick. Anything. Second, third, whatever it may be. He has value, though. He's not a bum.
Yeah, that is absolutely. It's supply and demand, and you hit the nail right on the head. There are 32 NFL teams. Jimmy is approximately, let's say something that isn't inflammatory, approximately the 20th best quarterback in the league, right? We could debate over whether he's a few spots higher than that or a few spots lower than that. But you're taking either a coin flip chance on a first rounder. So you're investing a first rounder and you've got a freaking 50-50 chance he's either good or not. or Jimmy? Where is he inconsistent? Yes. But do you also know exactly what he is? Like, have you seen enough on tape? Yes, you have. And if you can get a middling quarterback somewhere in that 15 to 20 range and get his cap hit down to a reasonable number, to me, that is an easy win for a GM, right? They can bring in a guy who's going to excite their fan base because unlike 49er fans, most people hear the national narrative, which is that Jimmy wins a lot of games. And so I think with the right fan base, they would be excited that they're not in the unknown space of a rookie quarterback in a class of rookie quarterbacks that has been touted to be a weak class of rookie quarterbacks. I absolutely think it's supply and demand. A second round pick or an early third is not very much in draft capital. I was originally thinking it would be a late second and a fourth, that would be the package that would get the deal done for Jimmy. I could see that slipping a bit with the injury to just a second or an early third rounder. But beyond that, I mean, it's crazy to think that he has zero trade value. He is a starting caliber NFL quarterback. There are not 32 of them in the world.
Yep. I don't want a draft pick if it was me personally, because our team doesn't know how to draft in those rounds. They only know how to draft, as we all know, in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. I mean, it's just what it is. Obviously, if Lance pans out, that's fine. I know we have Ayuk, and guys can get on me about that. But as a totality throughout the years, drafting, I mean, the Rams approach, although they're playing with fire, the Rams approach, they're in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, that's true.
We're right. So what has been our complaints all year, mostly as a fan base, is, oh man, Ambry Thomas, that's a draft pick. Oh man, Lenore, that's a draft pick. A Sermon, that's a draft. I mean, go on with these guys, right? Now Mitchell hit and a couple other guys hit, but we're not great drafters. So if I have the option with Jimmy G, I go to someone like Carolina, or I go to somebody who has a DB, and I go, look, hey, he doesn't want to be on your team next year. Why don't we do a swap? You take him, you extend him. We'll take him, we'll extend him. Like someone like Gilmore.
Yeah, Chris Royals right with you. Trade and restructure. That's the way it goes down. I think that's for sure the case with Jimmy. I like what you're selling here, which is do the same to get back that veteran corner. Because again, eliminate the coin flip, get talent that what the floor is, right? It may not be a perfect fit. Certainly, you only have to look back to Nate Clements, the big money we spent on a cornerback that was expected to be a shutdown corner. It didn't quite work out that way, but it's at least a better chance than drafting an unknown rookie coming in. So I like that plan. I like swapping veteran for veteran.
Yeah, because then you're not asking the other team for really any other capital. You're not trying to get any other draft picks. You're already getting someone that they know everything about, that they're willing to let go. There's other options out there, but I think that would probably be the easiest thing to do with a team to get them to take Jimmy, is because you're actually swapping money as well. Because if that player
taking money off of their books and helping them
so
out.
they don't see it as 27, and they're not even losing a draft pick, and we don't have to do much convincing other than them seeing, can they gain from a quarterback, and we'll get a heck of a lot in return from a CB. And the fan base, it'd be a lot easier for us next year if that becomes an asset for us to be like, hey, we can always look back and say that was from Jimmy Garoppolo right there. That's where we got that guy. So that's what I would do personally with him. But that's where I'm at in terms of the value aspect of Garoppolo.
I like it. Now, what are some of the other teams that you see out there as viable trade destinations? By the way, I just saw Cody flash in there. So I'm going to try, after we go through this super chat from Chris, I'm going to try and bring him in on a little three-way. See if we can't keep you in here, bring Cody in to make sure he's good to go, and then see if we can't get a little dialogue going here, just to keep it going. But what are some teams you see as viable? Do you like my Pittsburgh prediction?
So the only issue I have with Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh O-line sucks.
That's a fact.
So
they're getting Ben killed this year.
Yes, and so if you're going to have one statue who is the size of a linebacker get traded with another, you're going to remove him and bring in another statue who looks like a cornerback in Jimmy Garoppolo. The dude can't get out of the pocket, and he's going to have to face Myles Garrett twice.
Oof.
He's going to have to face, who else is it? He has TJ Watt on his team. who's the other one in
Yes,
the
that's
division.
the brutal defense.
He's going to also have to keep up with points with Lamar Jackson and those guys. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm like, oh man, that is a major bridge. I basically have another Mason Rudolph right back there.
Yep.
So to me, I don't see that as Pittsburgh getting the benefit out of that. And I highly doubt Garoppolo going to a cold situation with his injuries that are lower. He's going to be able to make it through a season. He can't even do it in the warm West Coast.
What do you think of an indoor stadium? Chris Royal throwing out, I think Jimmy would do well on the Saints. Sean Payton is great with quarterbacks. That would be an interesting one. Certainly the offensive system is robust. They are most definitely in need of a quarterback. I don't know how well he fits the system, but I should think that Sean Payton would be able to maximize Jimmy's skill set.
Well, the Saints would be good. The Saints are similar to us, right?
Yep.
We have a legit defense, which keeps us in the games.
Very legit D.
And our offense has players, but our quarterback is what's holding us back. I mean, you look at the Saints, their quarterback's their main issue. They were winning games when Winston was healthy. Winston's a similar quarterback to me as Jimmy. The only difference is Winston has the ability from both of his coaches in Tampa Bay and with Sean Payton to take major chances.
Yeah.
To fling the football, and they're okay with turnovers. Like they don't get crazy when there's turnovers. Where Jimmy's a lot more calculated because of Shanahan. He makes him be precise and doesn't give him that freedom to go crazy down the field, which is what we all hate, right?
Yeah.
So I think him with Peyton could be good. I always look at it from the fan base perspective and team perspective and go, man, if I was the Saints.
They may remember 2019. They may remember the shootout and Jimmy being able to deliver in that game. They may have a favorable impression of Jimmy Garoppolo in having beat them and ripped their hearts out of their chest.
As long as they don't have Google to look up Jimmy G's stats, then yes, I'm with you. If it's only those 60,000 people that were in that stadium.
Those that were there in the stadium.
But the problem is those same fans probably watched the Super Bowl too.
They probably did.
And said, damn it, dude, Drew Brees wouldn't have missed that or, whoever. So I'm with you, but I would say regardless, Jimmy is Jimmy. Like no matter what, if Jimmy goes to Bill Belichick right now, or if Jimmy goes to anybody else, it's not possible for him to be this greater quarterback than he is now. We've put him in the best situation in 2019, allowed him to never be sacked and throw the ball wherever he wanted to wide open guys and with a great running game. And he was our quarterback on the Super Bowl team getting there. But at the end of the day, the whole league watched the playoffs. The whole league got to see Minnesota and the whole league got to see Green Bay game. When you have the commentators and millions of people watching him as our quarterback and virtually be unneeded in the games and then be counted on in the Super Bowl and not come through, that the whole world saw that. It's not something we can hide or we can deflect.
No, but even having seen that, the national narrative remains that Jimmy's a high caliber which I think he is a high caliber quarterback. But I do think that they overlook the inconsistency to some level at the national level. And so I do wonder if that's the case in front offices. I know that they're much more informed than your average national fan within the NFL, but I mean, time will tell what front offices think of him, and I'm anxious to find out.
The national narrative that I see, though, with Jimmy, I never see anybody. When I see anybody, we can talk about the main shows, right? Whether it's the Cowherds, the First Takes, the Shannon Undisputed, all the main shows you see on the cable. None of them ever support Jimmy based on statistics. Every single time I ever hear them compliment Jimmy, it's, well, Shanahan's only won 8 games without him. And
that's true. They go to the win-loss record for sure. But I also think when you look at Jimmy's overall statistics, they're not bad. They're right in line with what type of quarterback he is, around that 15 to 20 range, right? I mean, he's kind of in that 2-to-1 interception ratio, that 65 to 67% completion percentage, I think probably in that range. And so I think it fits with where he's at. He's just overpaid for that level of quarterback. And so I do think it requires that wink, wink, nudge, nudge deal. In looking down, we have a waiting room that has filled up again. Sean, I am going to have to go back down to it, but appreciate you coming back in. I love chatting Niners with you, my friend.
Hey, likewise, man. Always, Rob. Appreciate you very much, buddy.
Absolutely. I'll see you again soon.
Yes, sir. All right.
Later, buddy. All right, Cody, man, bringing you in. How you doing?
Good. How's it going, Schuh?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know earlier you guys were talking about, the defensive coordinator and how much role they play in terms of, the defense giving up the game away, so to speak. But
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. And I look at, I think it was Robert Saleh, right, before D'Amico Ryans.
Yep.
When he first started off, he was going through learning curves. He was learning how to make adjustments. And I think for the most part, like you mentioned earlier, D'Amico has called really good games. I think the only issue I see, like in the last game against the Titans, is unlike, say, like someone like, Coach Belichick, who takes away your best weapon in offense or what you do best. Saleh hasn't learned to make that one simple adjustment. I mean, I saw so many times when they were playing like quarters or zone defense, they left Avery Thomas, who, to me, if you don't look at Pro Football Focus stats, Avery Thomas, if you look at just the All-22 film, he's been in position almost every single play.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been saying this as well. He just hasn't finished the plays, but he's been in position.
Yeah, and if I'm a barely new defensive coordinator, and I'm just looking at the film, why are you not giving Avery Thomas safety help?
Right.
I don't get it. You're gonna give safety help to what's his face? Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name right now. Yeah, you're gonna give him safety help, but you're not gonna give the rookie safety help. And that blows my mind.
It's still needed on the other side. Josh, even in his advanced stage, does need that help. But the rookie you've got to bracket A.J. Brown. To me, that was the hardest part to swallow. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I agree. But Josh Norman, I mean, if I'm looking at it from the standpoint of a defensive coordinator, I'm definitely going to shift toward Avery Thomas. But I just think in terms of the defense, if you look at what D'Amico's had to work with in terms of secondary, I think he's done an outstanding job. I mean, he's still got, like I said, a learning curve and adjustments to make in-game adjustments. But, I mean, I think he's done an outstanding job for what he's had. And, I mean, he can always do better, but kind of want to shift to, Jimmy.
Okay.
I've been a huge fan of him. I have been. And Jimmy G is Jimmy Wynn,
Yeah.
But if you look at stats, yes, Jimmy, for the most part, statistically, he's average. He is average for the most part.
Right.
And he does ball out at times.
I was there for New Orleans, man. You cannot take that game away from him. I know that's one of the few we point to, but he balled in that game.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But also, if you look at that game too, I mean, short of the trick play with what's his name, the receiver, it's no longer on there. He was Denver Broncos.
Emmanuel Sanders, where he threw the touchdown.
I mean, yeah, short of that, like some of those were they were a little bit of luck on that.
The Kittle where he shirked 7 different defenders and ran for the first down certainly is one of those where if it weren't for that one play that Kittle made, we may not be talking about that game as a victory.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll give him credit for making those plays and staying in there, but he's shown that that's the exception and not the norm.
Yeah.
And in terms of his play, his norm or his normative would be he does just enough to want you to stay on the team or keep him in that quarterback position. But then he just almost always, it's that situation of, is it the chicken before, or is it the horse before the carriage or carriage before the horse, type of play. And it's like, to me, for the most part, Jimmy, I'll agree with most national media. He is the person that if everything goes right, he is perfect. If there's complementary football, if the run game's going, he's got the play action. If he's got the defense playing well, if he's starting in decent field position, he's your guy. He'll for the most part do okay. But the reason why they drafted Trey Lance is because when things don't go right, when things break down, when you're behind in the game and you're looking for that spark, Trey can give that to you. I mean, he's shown it in the preseason game with Sherfield. I mean, he threw a ball 60 yards across the field going back, and it was a touchdown. Jimmy G
huge.
Wouldn't make that in his dreams. Like, he wouldn't even attempt that.
Not many quarterbacks can, in all fairness, right? I mean, that is a limited skill set that you saw on display on that play, for sure.
Yeah, and I just look at in terms of Jimmy G. I mean, I know earlier, I forget which caller said it, but said that he's earned the right to finish out the season. No, he hasn't. This is the NFL, not for long. And if you look at situations like Alex Smith with Patrick Mahomes, he got injured, right? Mahomes comes in. You look at, obviously, Tom Brady. I know he's the GOAT, but, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. He comes in. You look at Brett Favre. They shipped him out to Minnesota, right, to let, Rodgers take over.
Yeah.
And I know I'm kind of pointing out some Hall of Fame guys, but
there's a common thread there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, the situation stands at, like, to me, the whole reason why they started Jimmy G was, right, they didn't want to go over. They thought he gave the best chance to win for the season. They didn't think he would make the rookie mistakes, right, and that he would perform at a decent enough level that he gives him the best chance to win.
Right.
But to me, time after time after time, he's made the rookie mistakes. He throws that in that last game. He throws those two horrible, some of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I don't even think Mark Sanchez would throw that kind of interception.
Ooh,
I mean,
that's a low bar.
I know, but I love Jimmy G. I do love Jimmy G.
Me too.
It's a love-hate relationship, but
yeah, there's a lot of frustration mixed in with that love for me.
Right, and I think in terms of, like I said, if you look at Jimmy G's play, and the reason why they started him, he's making the rookie mistakes. If you started the season and you said the Niners would be 8-7 with Jimmy G at the helm, I would have, without question, 1,000% said you need to start Trey Lance, because the reason why the front office and said we're not going to start Trey Lance is because we believe Jimmy G gives us the best shot, and we'd be contending for a division, if not conference, first round bye. And we're barely getting in because we're lucky that the NFL this year decided to add that 7th seed. And I think in terms of if the average play, I think Trey Lance can do what Jimmy G's doing, which is throw the ball less than 25 times a game, depend on the run game, play complimentary ball, let the defense keep you in good situations. And I think with Trey, I mean, you can do that. And not to mention, he adds the element of running. So, and to me, he's done something too that Jimmy G, for whatever reason, and this is even being under the tutelage of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, has never learned to throw the ball away.
That is frustrating.
I don't get it.
It's either, toss the pick or take the sack. Those seem to be the two viable options when the pocket collapses around him. Very seldom does he throw the ball away. That's an astute observation.
Yeah, and I think in terms of Trey, he's already shown that, and he was even playing behind a crappy offensive line, a makeshift in terms of what was going on at that time, and even during the Arizona game. And if you look at just a few plays, that 4th and goal, if they make that, if on a couple of plays that guys don't drop the ball, he was moving the ball. Like, he was actually, the offense was working under Trey. And if you believe the reports, which, I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt, that he's been improving and throwing more accurately and dissecting the Niners defense. I think you got to go with Trey. You can't go back and forth. Just like how, he went and said what turned the Niners season around was they said, all right, we're gonna go with Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey's gonna sit. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but he was like, we're gonna play Garoppolo, commit to him, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna do what worked for us in 2019. And I get it. That worked. That turned the season around. But to me, it's like, okay, now it's Trey's time. I think this whole like misinformation in terms of Jimmy G's injury is just, his way of trying to get, the Texans to kind of game plan for both. But I think if at the end of the day it's going to be Trey that's starting, and I think the team knows that internally, that he's going to start. But
I think so too, because you heard George Kittle propping up Trey in the presser today. He made positive comments about just how Trey is playing and how Trey is going to carve it up when he's out there. That what you saw in the preseason is nothing compared to what he's doing now. I do think that the narrative has shifted. It's at least Trey's game coming up on Sunday. That's my stance. At least Sunday.
Yeah, and to me, it's like just like anything else. Everyone knows, and I don't know, unless you're living on planet Mars, everyone knows that Jimmy's gone next year. Whether they cut him or trade him. So to me, if you're gonna start Trey, let him play, because to me, okay, so the worst thing you're worried about, right, is let's say he wins one and loses the one. Let's say he goes 50%, right? Wins one out of two.
1-1.
They gain the playoffs. The defenses or the teams that he's going to be playing against will have no game film on him.
That's what I've been saying, and I would love that. It sets up for a potential storybook ending to this season. Now, so would Jimmy coming back and redeeming himself. Both would be glorious. I'm on board with whichever one, quite honestly, gets the 49ers further in the playoff push.
Yeah, same here. And I think to me, once again, if we revisit the question of what gives the Niners the best chance to win,
right?
I think the fact that if you're going to be going to the playoffs against better defenses, they're going to cue in. They're going to zoom in on or key on Jimmy's tendencies to throw simply in the middle.
Yes, they will clog the middle.
Yeah, and the fact that, to me, I think the fact that he doesn't throw the deep ball, I think the shame that's been going on this year is the lack of use of Brandon Ayuk. Because you can't tell me that a year ago he was, this baller, and then this year he just took a slump. Like if you look at the all 22, I've looked at. So I watch John Chapman on the 49ers All Rush podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I watch his all 22, and every time you look at Ayuk, every time, dude, that guy is getting separation.
Ugh.
Every time. And you know what's happening is Garoppolo doesn't throw it to him. He's usually the decoy, and Garoppolo throws it to Kittle, or Garoppolo throws it to, Debo, because they're yak guys.
Yep.
Yeah, and to me, I think if you look at, Trey's skill set, I think if he can develop, which from what the reports are saying, develop that mid-range game, his ability to take the top off of defenses is only going to take this offense to a whole new level.
Totally agree.
Because
look
at
would
RG3.
change the game. And you have to look at the complementary players have absolutely grown by leaps and bounds since his performance against Arizona. That most definitely he was limited by that game plan, was unable to really showcase his entire skill set, may not have had a full grasp of the offense, but the entire team has changed dramatically. I think we are about to get an entirely new sample size to look at in the game against the Texans. And I think it will change what the dialogue is for next week, because we will have new information on just how Trey is performing, as opposed to, trying to imagine how he might look within this offense. We'll be able to see if he can operate it, and just how successful, just how special he might be. I mean, it's going to be freaking exciting.
Yeah, and I think if you look at, some of the reports are coming out that his finger was injured since preseason.
Yep.
And it had just healed up. So that makes sense too, that he's throwing better, he's more accurate. The kid has been known since the draft prior to being drafted that he's got a phenomenal work ethic.
Yes.
And to me, I think what you looked at in Arizona, him going into that game plan, maybe that's the reason why Kyle was running him like a running back. Maybe he wasn't capable of necessarily throwing the ball as accurate. And Kyle I know he threw like 25 times or something like that.
He
but,
did. He had
but
many
he was
a
selling
fair
like
number
a
of
lot.
attempts.
Like, yeah, he was selling a lot of them. And I think in terms of Trey's development, one of the issues he was having was because they said that he has a photographic memory, and they said that he had learned the playbook by the end of training camp. But his issue was he was having a problem with pre-snap and post-snap, and it matching up with what he was seeing. And I think if he's developing that, because I know you can only learn so much on scouting.
Yep.
But if Fred Warner doesn't come out just to say comments,
No.
And
if Fred Warner says something unsolicited, you take Fred Warner at his word. I'm telling you that when you point to the Matt Mayoko story that came out from an executive within the 49ers, that's a little bit different, right? That is planted by the team. But when Fred Warner came out and said that, I took solace in it. I think that that's the real deal. And I definitely think, again, I mean, the good thing is we're not going to have to wait much longer. Cody, I mean, this has been a fantastic call. I got Vicky waiting below. I got to get to her, but will you call back in next week so we can break down what we actually see from Trey?
Absolutely, Schuh. Thanks for having me, and great show, man.
I appreciate it. Hey, enjoy your New Year celebration.
You too, man.
Thanks, buddy. All right, Vicky, bringing you into the stream. How are you doing, Vicky? It's good to see you.
Rob. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. How are you doing this evening?
Good. I'm excited to just talk to you for a few minutes.
Yes, please.
So, in hashing, I live in Portland.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Which quadrant are you in? Without getting specific for the viewers, we have it broken down here in Portland. You're either in northwest, northeast, southwest, or southeast. I'm in northeast. I used to be in southeast, but love the northeast now.
Yeah, I'm in southeast, kind of near Selwood in Milwaukee.
Oh, beautiful. Love that area. We were out by Woodstock at our old home out there deep in southeast.
Okay, and I've lived in northeast too, but yeah, so, and I actually grew up down in Aptos in California.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'm not familiar with that town. What area of California is that?
It's just a little bit south of Santa Cruz.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, man, out there along the coast. So I was in Palo Alto. That's where I grew up in the Bay. And that's where we'd go straight across the mountain range to either Santa Cruz or Half Moon Bay. But that entire coastline is just so beautiful.
It is. It's gorgeous. So I just want to give you a little insight because you had shared that you have been going to games for a long time.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I went to my stepdad had season tickets, so I started going to 49er games in 77 before Bill Walsh.
All right. I love it.
Yeah, when they were awful, like 2-14.
Yeah, there were some bad years before Bill arrived, right? I mean, we think of bad now, but man, there was some brutal years.
Exactly. So, yeah, it was pretty, a lot of not full stadiums, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yes, that is. I think my first game was 86. It could have been 87. I mean, I was at an age where those memories blur together. I'm certain it was Joe Montana at the time, and I got spoiled so quickly. I did not have to suffer through any 2-14 seasons. I walked right into a powerhouse of a team and just fell in love with them.
Right. No, so I wanted to ask you about, like, I know everyone talks about Trey and Jimmy and everything that's going on, but
Certainly.
I wanted your perspective about, like, what do you think about, like, Kyle Shanahan as developing quarterbacks? Because I have this sinking feeling, maybe I'll be wrong, but Jimmy will go somewhere else and he'll look better than he looks with San Francisco.
I think that's entirely possible. I mean, you look at a guy whose legs were cut out from under him. And in some ways, it's the NFL, it's a business, so it is what it is. in some ways it seemed a little unfair. The constant flirting with other quarterbacks, attempting to bring in everyone. You put Jimmy in an impossible situation where you ask him to be the leader of the locker room and at the same time make it clear to everyone that he's basically done, that his replacement has arrived. So I anticipate that the next team that trades for Jimmy will want him, and that he'll feel that, and that could provide an emotional uplift. I mean, just for the listeners and viewers, imagine going to work every day and feeling like they didn't want you there. Like, how motivated would you be? How much would you be able to lift up your team around you if you were a manager at that location? What sort of authority would you feel over the people that work for you, right? Translate it to a normal everyday situation that those of us who don't play in the NFL can relate to. And it's an impossible ask. So just from an emotional human standpoint, I could see Jimmy being more comfortable, feeling appreciated, and getting a resurgence in his career. I could definitely see him having a little more success wherever he goes. Now, that would be dependent on the supporting cast around him, but you could see him playing better in a new situation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of it too is I'm not that confident that that Kyle's going to be able to develop a quarterback, but until he shows me.
I have that question too. There's no historical data that really points to it. Kyle Shanahan has taken veteran quarterbacks and put them in very good positions to be successful. When you look at what he was able to do with Matt Ryan, you go even further back, Matt Schaub with the Texans, an early offensive coordinator role for Kyle Shanahan. And I know some folks point to Robert Griffin III's rookie season where he did come in and light the league on fire. But my question is, what level did Robert RG3 begin at, and how much of that was development? Because what did end up happening the following year is a significant drop off. Now, again, you have to interpret the horrific knee injury that he suffered in the playoffs of his rookie year, and what elements did it play in the drop off, and probably played a major role in it, but you didn't see progression. And it wasn't until after Kyle Shanahan left that Kirk Cousins had his resurgence underneath Sean McVay. Right. So there's not a clear track record. It's not saying that there's any definitive proof against it. Right. There's just not definitive proof supporting his ability to develop young rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I just hope that Trey doesn't take a lot of beating just for, because he's not going to be like all world when he gets out on the field for the first 8 games.
He is a rookie, and Niner fans need to be patient in that regard. We are a very fickle bunch, it would seem, in the way in which we cheer and boo against some of our own players who have done great things for this organization. I'll be interested to see just how much leeway the rookie's given for that idea that he is 21 years old. He's a rookie. You have to give him time to make mistakes.
Yes. And plus he didn't play last year really. So
no, right. He had one game. It was a rough game for him, judging by the entirety of his college career. And then he spent 9 freaking months getting ready for the draft and waiting to come into the NFL. Exactly. So yeah, I agree. You have to give him some time to get acclimated.
Right. So hopefully I'm optimistic that we can win the next 2 games, but I would like to see Trey play. I think it's time for for him to play.
Would you rather that it goes to Trey and maintains so that he grabs the reins against the Titans and then continues on in the starting role, or if Jimmy were fully healthy, would you have a debate back and forth about whether you would start Jimmy or Trey? Is it clear cut for you?
Yeah, I would start Trey. I think at this point, I just think that realistically, we're not winning the Super Bowl, and I don't think we're winning an NFC championship game. So for me, I say start Trey, and anything that we get, I'm saying if Jimmy plays, we're basically capped out before the NFC champ. I don't see us beating Green Bay or Tampa Bay or LA Rams or whoever's in the NFC championship game. And so I think you play Trey and you might have a shot to go farther. I just don't think we're going to do it with Jimmy.
I tend to agree because this team with Jimmy at the helm has demonstrated an inability to really come back from falling behind. Even just a 5-yard penalty can seem to derail an entire drive. Certainly a holding call, make it 1st and 20, and it seems like forget about it. We don't have consistent enough chunk plays to be able to get that back. And you said it that bringing Trey in, not only does it raise our excitement level, but it does raise the ability of the 49ers to take those shots and get those chunk plays that otherwise we seem to be missing.
Yeah. And, I just think that Jimmy's, I think he is what he is, and I'm not attributing it to like what his ceiling is. I just think it's a ceiling with Kyle. I'm not sure if it's his own ceiling, if that makes sense.
It does. Do you attribute that to the way in which Kyle uses him within the system and Kyle's sort of acknowledgement of the limitations and therefore not asking Jimmy to do things? Or do you think there's any tie-in to the, I would almost say, obsessive compulsive level of perfectionism that Kyle Shanahan seems to have in his personality? Do you think that plays any role in it?
Yeah, I actually do. I mean, I don't, I'm just viewing the games like everyone else, but
right. There's some speculation involved, no doubt.
But I just think that until he proves me otherwise, I think that, he needs to like evaluate his abilities of developing quarterbacks. Because I think it's going to be important for Trey Lance. And I know the quarterback coach, but I don't know if he's any good. I have no idea. But it just doesn't seem, I guess what I'm saying is Jimmy's had plenty of games. He does have good stats, but he doesn't improve. And in my opinion, he hasn't improved in the last 2 years.
I think it's fair to say that you really have reached a pretty firm ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo, that you know what it is, you know what the floor is. And that's why he's been starting this entire year, because he does provide a pretty significant floor, but you also know where he caps out. And in between those two is just that consistently inconsistent Garoppolo. And the turnovers tend to come like grapes in bunches. They're not single, right? If he could spread out, I heard someone say this, and it's an interesting idea, is that if you had simply taken one of his turnovers from the Titans game and committed it against the Falcons instead, you probably still win both of those games. But because both of the turnovers come against the Titans, and because you have the missed shot play in that, because you basically have such a poor performance in totality in that one game, it cost them what was otherwise a very winnable matchup. And that is very frustrating as a member of the Niner faithful. I walked away from that game extremely frustrated because it was tough to watch that game with my dad, who goes a little bit negative. It was Christmas time. I was at my folks' house. And when the Niners are struggling, let me tell you, it's hard to be next to that man watching that, because I'm Mr. Positive, right? Everybody seems to know that by now on the channel. And so I'm cheering. Like, I am rooting as hard as any one person can, thinking I'm going to will the 49ers to do better. And he's over there, well, they're done. Like, game's over. And there's like an entire fourth quarter still to go. So I was dealing with both of those things, the Niners' poor performance on the screen and then him in my ear. That was definitely rough. But I came away extremely frustrated. And it's not the first time with Jimmy. And if he were to continue starting into the postseason, I don't think it would be the last. I think we would probably come up against another game where, you know, he committed a turnover that stood in the way of us otherwise walking out with a victory. I think it's fair to assume that.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to ask you is I feel confident that the whole team is going to be behind Lance on Sunday, and I think more so than any other time earlier in the season, because they realize that they're 8-7, and they're 8-7, so they need to win 2 games. And if everybody plays, at a high level, I think that'll carry, so that Trey doesn't have to do everything.
Yes, that's the key, that he is a rookie. He's 21 years old. He had a limited college experience, even as far as rookies go. You cannot expect him to be the savior. Can you have wild hopes? Yes, I do. I know. Yeah, I have wild hopes. I want to ride Trey into the frickin' Super Bowl. That's what I want to have. And I want the storybook ending, the first rookie to ever win. But I'm not going in with those expectations. I'm coming in with measured expectations, and I do hope that everyone around him, the supporting cast, makes it easier for him to walk away with a convincing victory. And as long as it is a convincing victory against the Houston Texans, I think my hope would probably be to continue with Trey into Week 18. Again, I'll wait and see what the health of Jimmy G seems to be at that point and what the result is Sunday. But man, that would be good to be riding high going into the playoffs with a rookie quarterback who nobody has tape on, and just see where you can go.
Exactly. I agree. I think it could be fun. I mean, and I think someone else, I don't know if it was on your show or Grant's show, because I've watched both when I'm working.
As do I.
But some, like Lance can throw the outside routes, and so he can throw the ball. And like I think Grant may have said, stay away from the middle of the field and throw the outside deep routes, where if the guy doesn't catch it, then it's just an incompletion.
Yes, both quarterbacks tend to have the habit of skipping balls off of receivers' hands for different reasons. I think with Jimmy, it's more often because it's a little high and behind the receiver as they're crossing the middle. But you hit it that when that happens and the ball is up for grabs in the middle of the field, that's a pick, right? Somebody's coming down with that thing. But if you're on the boundaries, typically that falls out of bounds. Somebody on the sideline catches it. No harm, no foul. Those are different incompletions.
Right. And I hope, the receivers will be fired up for this game, because they're going to get to see some passes if Shanahan allows them to throw the passes.
Yeah. The game plan will show us the level of trust that Kyle has in the rookie. And I hope it has increased since what we saw against Arizona.
Definitely. I agree. Well, I'm glad I had a chance to talk to you.
Absolutely, Vicky. This is absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope that you'll consider doing so in the future as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm on board. I'm working from home still, so I have a lot more flexibility.
Nice. That's always a positive thing.
Exactly. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that you have a wonderful New Year's Eve celebration. I'll be keeping it low-key myself, staying off of the roads. Exactly. Don't want to be out there an amateur hour. Just stay home, watch some movies. That's my thing.
I'm about the same way. I have a Aussie Labradoodle, so she gets me out of the house for walks and hikes and stuff like that. And but yeah, I did a bunch of errands because I was off at noon, and so I don't really have to go out and deal with any kind of black ice.
That's good. Yeah, I went out for a jog earlier, and it wasn't as bad as the day before. I was slipping and sliding the day before, but it is still nasty out there. And from what I see on the weather app, it is going to be that way tonight as well. It is not pretty in Portland at the moment.
The upside is at least it'll be rain instead of snow, it looks like, for the most part.
Oh, thank goodness. We don't need any more of that ice. We do not drive well in those conditions. Nobody does. Anytime you're driving on an ice rink, that's tough sledding.
Well, you have a nice New Year's yourself, and I'm sure I'll be back on at some point.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Take care.
Okay. Bye, Rob.
Bye-bye. All right, we got one more super chat to hit here. Sean951 coming in. Sean, again, thank you for the contributions on the show, and thank you for the super chat here. Sean951 Niners, Trey has 2 games to show his worth, or Aaron Rodgers will be our quarterback next year. Shanahan dissed Brady for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he won't do that again with A-Rod. Debo to Green Bay. That's an interesting suggestion. I'm not a fan of letting Debo go personally because I am emotionally attached to him as the best wide receiver the 49ers have had in a long time, and I love his physical play style. But I'll tell you what, to watch Aaron Rodgers in Shanahan's offense, that would be pretty special. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers, regardless of what happens for the 49ers. My guess is we see Trey, and we see enough of Trey that we have hope for the future. Hope for the future. And Aaron Rodgers can go do his thing somewhere else, hopefully in the AFC. Hopefully get him out of the freaking conference at that point. If he's not with the 49ers, I want him in the AFC. All right, this was a fantastic show. I mean that. I mean, honestly, this was fantastic. Truly enjoyed myself. Went far longer than I anticipated, but couldn't stop myself because it was great conversations with everybody. We'll work in, a time limit so that we can get many callers in. I think we got to everybody today. Loved everyone's contributions. Anyone that was on today, please, I welcome you back next week. We're going to try and make this a regular Thursday evening occurrence. We will keep the poll open on a recurring basis on that tab for the community on my page so that we can decide on a different day if there are other time frames that people want to use so that they're available to come on a call-in show. We can rotate it a little bit. For right now, Thursdays at 4 seems to be a good spot. I appreciate everybody who came on. I appreciate everyone in the chat. I love this channel. I love the positivity and respectfulness that occurs here. I really do appreciate that. It means a great deal to me. Thank you all for being here this evening. I will be on with Grant, his channel tomorrow, and then we are bringing Eric Crocker on the channel tomorrow afternoon. I will be tweeting that out tonight. I'm very excited about tomorrow's guest, Crocky. Tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. That would be wonderful. And as Luke Walsh is saying there, it helps me. It amplifies my signal. If you're still holding on, hit that like button before you go. Please do. It means a great deal. Great deal. And I'm very excited about Croc, as is AJB. Yes, it will be a good one. I'm going to be working on the freaking topic list this evening. No doubt. Silent Seth, Eric is coming to the Schuh Show. We'll have to check with him whether he is a sneakerhead. Obviously not a member of the sneakerhead community, but a sneakerhead nonetheless, to see what kind of sneaker game he's got. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you tomorrow, either on Grant's channel or here on my channel at 2 p.m. with Eric Crocker. Looking forward to it. Until then, cheers, faithful.